Welcome back to the deep dive. We always say personal finance is personal, right? But today, we're going to look at someone whose finances might hit a little close to home for some of you.
Oh, this is gonna good.
So picture this. You're Ryan, software architect, making a cool $240,000 a year,
Not bad. Not bad at all.
right? Lives in Denver, nice house, couple of fancy cars, even a private golf membership. Sounds like the dream, yeah.
From the outside looking in, absolutely.
But here's the thing. Ryan's stressed, big time,
Yeah.
about money. And get this, he's basically living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in credit card debt.
That's what's so fascinating about this deep dive. It really highlights how income doesn't equal financial security, does it? I mean, Ryan's story is a perfect example of how you can be making bank but still feel totally out of control when it comes to your money.
It's wild, right?
Right.
And it's making me think, how many people are out there just like Ryan, looking successful on paper, but secretly freaking out about their finances?
Probably more than we realize.
So to help us unpack all this, we're going to compare Ryan with someone we talked about in a previous deep dive, James. Totally different financial situation, even though he earns less than Ryan.
Oh yeah, James is a whole different story.
Right. James is all about living below his means, careful budgeting, no debt, healthy emergency fund. It's like they're living on opposite ends of the financial spectrum, even though they're both doing pretty well career-wise.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin.
So let's start by really getting into Ryan's world. 240 grand a year, but living on the edge, tons of credit card debt. What's the deal? How does that even happen?
Well, a big part of it is probably lifestyle creep. Basically, as Ryan's income went up, his spending went up right along with it. Bigger house, nicer cars, those vacations he takes, all that adds up fast.
So it's like every time he got a raise, he thought, okay, time to upgrade my life.
Exactly. And it's a trap that's so easy to fall into, Especially when you're making good money, you start thinking you deserve all these nice things. And before you know it, you're spending way more than you ever thought you would.
It's like that saying, the more money you make, the more money you need, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And that's where James is different.
Right.
He doesn't play that game. He intentionally keeps his lifestyle simple. Doesn't feel the need to keep up with the Joneses.
Exactly. James is all about that financial stability. He's not impressed by fancy cars or designer clothes. He'd rather have peace of mind knowing he's got a solid financial foundation.
I bet that makes a huge difference mentally and emotionally, too, to not constantly be chasing the next big thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a weight off your shoulders.
So back to Ryan for a sec.
Yeah.
No emergency fund, living paycheck to paycheck, even with that big salary. That just sounds like a recipe for disaster waiting to happen.
It really is. I mean, what happens if he loses his job or has some unexpected medical bills? He's got nothing to fall back on.
Yeah, he's one car repair away from being in serious trouble.
And again, think about James. He's got that emergency fund, so he's got options. He could take a career risk, travel the world, whatever he wants. He's not tied down by that fear of what if something goes wrong?
See, this is what I love about these deep dives. It's like we're getting a peek behind the curtain of people's financial lives and seeing what really works and what doesn't. And it's not always what you'd expect.
That's right. It's all about choices, isn't it?
Exactly. So for our listeners out there, I'm curious. Do you track your spending? Do you have an emergency fund? Would love to hear your thoughts, because these are the things that can make or break your financial future.
Couldn't agree more. These are the building blocks of a solid financial life, no matter how much you're making.
Absolutely. It's pretty clear James is in a much better place right now. But the thing is, Ryan could turn things around too. He doesn't have to totally upend his life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, small changes can make a big difference over time, right?
Right. So let's say Ryan wants to try just one thing that James does. What would you say is the most important place to start?
Well, he definitely needs to start building an emergency fund like yesterday. It's the foundation for everything else, financial stability, peace of mind, all that.
I mean, I get that, but he's got that mortgage, those cars, private school for the kids. Can he really even afford to save anything?
Oh, for sure. He just has to shift his priorities a little. Remember, we're talking about $240,000 a year. If he put away even 10% of his take-home pay every month, that's $24,000 a year going straight into savings.
Okay, yeah, that's not nothing. But wouldn't he have to make some serious sacrifices to do that?
Not really, no. I mean, instead of having 2 luxury cars, maybe he just has 1. Find some cheaper hobbies, little stuff like that.
So little tweaks here and there, not like he has to become a monk or anything.
Exactly. It's about being mindful, not miserable.
Okay, so say he does that. He starts building that emergency fund. What kind of impact would that have on his life, would you say?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the mental shift. Suddenly, he's not panicking every time an unexpected bill comes in. He knows he's got that buffer.
Yeah. Peace of mind. That's priceless.
Totally. And it opens up possibilities. What if he wants to switch careers? Do something he loves, even if it pays a little less. Or start his own business.
He'd have the freedom to take those risks.
Exactly. Because he's not chained to that paycheck anymore.
So that's the emergency fund. But James is also big on investing, right?
Oh, yeah. He loves those index funds. Low cost, easy to manage, and you're basically betting on the whole market going up over time.
He's in it for the long haul.
Exactly. And that's where I see a big difference between him and Ryan. I mean, Ryan might be putting money into his 401k, but he's not really thinking about it strategically.
Not making his money work for him, you mean?
Exactly. And don't forget, James also has that rental property.
Oh, right.
Brings in some extra cash flow every month, and it's a good hedge against inflation.
So he's diversifying his income streams, too.
Yeah.
Which is something Ryan could totally do, once he gets that emergency fund going.
Absolutely. Instead of racking up credit card debt, he could be using that money to invest.
It's like a snowball effect. One good decision leads to another.
Totally. And it all starts with that shift in mindset, from reactive to proactive.
Speaking of proactive, what about budgeting? James is all about that meticulous budgeting, right?
Oh, yeah, big time. He tracks every dollar, knows exactly where his money is going.
For someone like Ryan who's never really tracked his spending, that's going to be a huge adjustment.
It can be. But there are so many apps out there now that make it super easy. They connect to your bank accounts, categorize everything automatically.
So it's not like the old days with spreadsheets and calculators.
No way. Technology's your friend here. The main thing is to find a system that works for you and stick with it.
Okay, so what would Ryan learn if he actually started tracking his spending? What kind of surprises might be in store for him?
I think he'd probably be shocked at how much he's spending on things like, eating out or just the little impulse buys. That stuff adds up.
And once he sees it, he can make conscious choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe cook at home more often.
Exactly. It's not about deprivation. It's about making your spending align with your values. If financial security is important to him, he'll find ways to make it happen.
And then there's the debt. We can't forget about that.
Yeah.
James hates debt, right?
Oh, yeah, avoids it like the plague. He knows it's just a drag on your finances, holds you back.
But Ryan, he's already got a ton of credit card debt. What's the first step for him to get a handle on that?
Well, he needs a plan. And there are a lot of good strategies out there, like the snowball method, where you pay off the smallest debts first to build momentum, or the avalanche method, where you focus on the highest interest rates to save money in the long run.
So different approaches for different people.
Exactly. But the most important thing is to be proactive. Make it a priority to pay down that debt.
And then all that money he's wasting on interest, he can redirect it towards savings and investments.
Exactly. Creates that positive feedback loop, Good habits lead to good results.
So it's not about saying James is better than Ryan or anything like that.
No, not at all.
It's about seeing that anyone can make these changes, no matter where they're starting from.
Right. It's about taking control of your finances and building the life you want.
And this is where it gets really interesting for our listeners, right? Because you might be thinking, well, I'm not making $240,000, so this doesn't apply to me.
Oh, but it does, though. The principles are the same no matter what your income is.
Exactly. Emergency fund, tracking expenses, making smart choices, investing wisely. That's good advice for anyone.
It's about the habits, not the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if you're not in Ryan's shoes, there's a lot to learn from someone like James. He's figured out the system.
And it shows you that it's possible to achieve financial security no matter where you're starting from.
It's inspiring, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it shows you that you have the power to change your financial future one step at a time.
Absolutely. It's all about making choices that align with your goals.
So we've talked about a lot of big picture stuff today, but I want to make sure our listeners have some practical tools to help them actually put these ideas into action. So we've been diving deep into Ryan and James's contrasting approaches to money, and it's clear that James has a lot to teach us, right? But the good news is, you don't need to be a financial whiz to start making smarter choices with your money.
No, not at all. It's all about taking those first steps, building those good habits.
Okay, so let's talk about those first steps.
Yeah.
What can our listeners do, like right now, to start building that solid financial foundation?
Well, I'd say the first thing is to really understand where your money's going. Track your spending.
Because if you don't know where it's going, you can't really make a plan to change anything, right?
Exactly. It's like trying to drive somewhere without a map. You might get there eventually, but it's going to be a lot more frustrating.
And these days, you don't even need a map, right? You just use your phone.
Right. Same with budgeting. There are so many apps out there that make it super easy. They do all the work for you.
I love those apps. They just connect to your bank account and automatically categorize everything.
It's amazing. And once you see where your money's actually going, then you can start making some decisions about, what to cut back on, what to prioritize.
Okay, so that's step one. Track your spending. What's next?
Emergency fund. Gotta have that safety net. Aim for 3 to 6 months of living expenses, if you can.
Yeah, that's what they always say.
Yeah.
But it can feel overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start?
Just start small. Even if it's just $50 a month, the important thing is to be consistent.
Little by little, it adds up.
Exactly. Just like with exercise. You don't start by running a marathon.
You got to work your way up.
Right.
So, tracking expenses, building that emergency fund. What else?
Well, got to talk about debt, especially those high-interest credit cards. If you're carrying a balance, that should be a top priority to pay down.
Yeah, that interest can really snowball, can it?
It can. And there are different ways to tackle it, Snowball method, avalanche method. Find what works for you.
Get creative. Maybe pick up a side hustle to help you pay it down faster.
Exactly. And once you've got that debt under control, then you can really start thinking about building wealth, investing.
And we know how James feels about investing. Index funds all the way.
Simple, effective, and it's worked for him.
Especially if you're new to investing, index funds are a great place to start.
For sure. Low fees, instant diversification. You're basically betting on the whole market going up over time.
And the key is to be consistent. Ride out those ups and downs.
Investing is a long game. Don't get spooked by the short-term stuff.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from budgeting to debt to investing. But it's important to remember that financial well-being is about more than just numbers, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's about having the freedom to live the life you want. Pursue your passions. Make choices that align with your values.
It's about feeling secure, knowing that you're in control of your money and it's working for you, not against you.
Exactly. It's empowering.
And that's what I hope our listeners take away from this deep dive. No matter what your financial situation is right now, you have the power to change it.
You can build a better future for yourself.
One smart choice at a time.
Absolutely.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thank you all for listening. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring.
And remember, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.